Hello everybody, welcome. It's been a bit of a rush today. I've had to go to all sorts of events and things today, so I've got everything prepared this morning, but I had a bit of a rush this afternoon, and then I cooked dinner. And you know what it's like, I sat on that sofa and thought, you know what, I could do with a little snooze. Which hopefully, thank goodness rather, I didn't, otherwise we wouldn't be here now. Right, so let's just check, make sure we're on Facebook. Let's hope we are live. I've got something going on the screen. Oh yes, that looks okay. Now you need to tell me if you can hear me, and you need to tell me whether you can see me. You need to tell me if the light's okay, and all the usual stuff, because you know what it's like, we need to make sure it's okay first before we start. So good evening to Maggie and Patricia and Anne and Helen. Because we've got loads of new people this week, haven't we? We've all had a bit of a marketing drive. And hello Di, I have to say I've got a figure in mind of where I want to stick at, and then we'll let it all happen organically, as they say. But so I had a bit of a marketing drive, sending out emails and goodness knows what. And so consequently we've got loads of new members, and just about 10 minutes before we started we had Karen and Celia join us, which is fab, isn't it? I mean, literally 10 minutes ago. I just happened to catch that on my phone. And then if I look down, we've got Chris as well, and Kay as well was new today. So that's fantastic, isn't it? And then let me have a look. Oh, and Sally, that was today as well. So is that 5? I think that's the most we've ever... Oh, hold on. I was just going to say it's the most we've ever had, but actually I think we've had more than that in one day, haven't we? We've had 6. But you know what? When you consider that the group is... I want to keep it quite small in comparison to perhaps some of the Facebook account, groups. Oh, sorry, I'll get my teeth in a minute. Then keeping it small is absolutely key. And I don't want to overwhelm myself, never mind anybody else. So I'm keeping it fairly... Hi, Karen. Oh, welcome. Hey, you joined just in time, didn't you? Well done, you. Anne says she can hear me and even saw the countdown. It's a bit clever, isn't it? It's a bit of technology. See, I've been working on the old iPad, and ages ago I did a countdown clock and I'd forgot I had it, so yeah, I just added it on there to see how it would work. And then actually, to be truthful, I went to start and then I realised I hadn't connected it to Facebook, so we had to do a quick join up of Facebook to the equipment. Dear me. Anyway, there we are. So tonight I decided we should make Polly Pocket. I think my Polly Pocket is actually in my handbag, because I do use it all the time. I know I haven't got it here. There's no point me looking because it's not here. So we've got to make the one, haven't we, that I've got in front of me, all the bits and bobs. Now I've made an adjustment to the pattern. So if you want to, you could go and download the new version, which I uploaded earlier on today. Because when I was cutting on, because sometimes, because I'm always in a rush, sometimes the only time I get to really test my pattern pieces is when I cut it for myself, when I'm going to do the Facebook Lives with you, which doesn't sound very good, does it? Well, most of the time it's absolutely fine. There is an occasion here and there where I forget to add something. And although I'd got the handle on the front of the pattern, I'd actually forgotten to include the pattern for it, which I've done now. So you can always go back and upload it or download it. Oh, goodness. But in actual fact, the dotted line that you've got on the pattern piece is actually the pattern piece. So if you wanted to, you could trace around that if you've got the original version, if you don't want to waste any more paper. Or, you know, with PDFs, when you go to print them, you can actually tell your printer to print just a certain page. So you can say print page, I think this is 10. There's quite a lot of pages to this one. So you can actually ask it just to print that one page if you want. So, oh, it's this one. This one. This is the new page. I'm not doing very well, am I? I need to take more water with my gin. I haven't had any gin. But yeah, so I think that is page 10 now. But anyway, you can always download it should you wish. but that is perfectly fine. So I've done all the rest. The only other thing that I didn't do a pattern piece for, because it's quite big, was the gusset, which is, I said about 24.5 by 1.5. And that I think from memory, when I made it up, that is a little bit long anyway, but I do like to make sure that you've got enough. I would hate to shortchange you and then you get the gusset going all the way around and you're missing ½ an inch. That would be really annoying, wouldn't it? So I like to sort of give you that little bit extra, and then you can just trim it. And then of course the 2-inch square zip tab pieces. So I've got a decent overhead tonight, so hopefully we can have a look at some of these bits and bobs overhead, and then we can get it put together fairly quickly. Now, we have a couple of serious problems tonight, guys. Firstly, we've got to try and make this up in the hour without me chattering too much. What time is it now? Oh, I can't even see. Oh, about 7:10. So we've got to try and get most of this on the head, because at 8 o'clock on Channel 5 there is a crafting programme, which actually I almost was tempted to apply for. It comes under the same umbrella, I think, as Kirsty's Homemade Christmas, you know, the same production company, I think, from memory. And the only thing that put me off was that you needed to have a stall, so you're going to be judged and all that sort of thing. And to be honest, they probably wouldn't have had me because of my job, but which is always a bit of a shame. But yes, so you had to at the end have a stall where you could sell your wares, and I thought, oh, now I've got enough on my plate. Well, you lot and that lot and this lot. So I thought better of it. So anyway, I think that's the one. I'm pretty sure it is anyway. So it'd be interesting to see it. So I need to sort of stop the waffling and get on making the Polly Pocket, which is fab. I do love it. I actually use a notepad or a diary a lot for work and for writing things down. You know, when you have that moment, you think, oh, that's a good idea, I must write it down. So the actual, I'm calling it a pocket because it's not really a bag, although of course you could make it into a bag. It's big enough to actually pop a pen in there as well, and I have a pen that is in there. Nobody can see it, nobody can pinch your pen, which is sometimes very annoying. So that was the idea behind Polly Pocket, that I could have something something nice to carry, something tactile, because we like our fabric, something in my handbag that would look lovely, that it's got the tab and the popper on there so it's secure, and the fact that I could put a pen in there as well. And it's quite a deep diary that I've got in there. It's possibly just under an inch, perhaps 3/4 of an inch. So I think a couple of notepads in there would be just right. And like I say, I use mine a lot. So that's what we're going to do. Maureen says, hi Lizzie and the Golden Girls. Yeah. Oh, is Abigail on as well? Abigail's on telly tomorrow. Good luck with that, Abby. Hope all goes well. Christine, come on, I'm going to have to zoom out here. Christine says that she's feeling very chuffed as she's got Lizzie, me, on her smart TV. Oh gosh, I hope it's not too big a screen, Christine. How funny. Oh, somebody's done an angry face. Oh, Di, you've done this before. You've done an angry face. Can you go and change it? Unless you are pretty fed up, which, you know, you could well be. So if you could go and change it, that would be good. You know why I say that? It's because it stays there for ages, well, all the time. So it looks like I've done a rubbish job, which I hope I don't. Anyway, all right. I'll get crack on because I've talked enough now. We've got to talk about these as well. Yeah, we've got to talk about that. So because that's important that I show you what type of cord it is, because if I can get it and I can get a good price and keep the packaging down and all of that, we'll see how we can do this. But it's special cord. It's not your regular, what you would think is like washing line cord, or some people will make those sort of baskets from that, but that isn't what I'm going to show you. But what I'm going to do is crack on with this, and then we'll show that at the end. If you have to disappear for the new craft program at 8, totally understand, but come back later, and hopefully we'll get to, I'm pointing that and I'm sure you can't see it, hope we'll get to that, and then we can have I can have a little chat, probably to myself. So right, so we'll crack on because we've got things to do. So I'm just going to put you on the overhead here, and I've got that gorgeous fabric, so I found a little scrap of that and I love it, so we're going to use that. So the first thing on the instructions, it says to do the zip tabs. Now when I put these together today, and on the instructions it says fold the opposite ends over and press. Fold two opposite ends of the zip tabs to the middle, turn, fold over, opposite side, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so what I've done is I've done kind of like the reverse. What I've done, and hopefully, let me just zoom that in a little bit more so you can see, is I've turned over the 1/4 inches on the ends first. This is a 2-inch square. So I've done my 1/4 inch in first, and then I've taken those to the middle. All right, so just so you know, that's how I get that long tab to go over my zip pull. And the first thing we're going to do, and all I do is tuck that in there, I don't do anything special, and then all I'm going to do then is just stitch that together. Now you could tack that, or use your quilter's tape just to hold it, or you obviously use a pin or your quilter's clips just to hold that, because it's the nature of the beast, it's going to spring. So you know, make it easy for yourself, and I would perhaps use quilter's tape just to hold that all in place. And I would also say use your regular foot when you're stitching this little bit here, because certainly with my zipper foot, it really is a bit of a devil for catching well, it doesn't catch the fabric. It's a bit of a crazy zipper foot, to be fair. So yes, your regular foot just to stitch around that. So we'll do that first of all, and I've got the other one for the other end. Now that's cut to size, and I wish I had the other one to show you, but unfortunately I have left it in my bag. I know I have, but it is a longer than your finished bag, and it's meant to be, because when you open it, you want a nice space to get your book inside. So that's why it is longer. Okay, so once we've done that, I'm going to try and follow the instructions a little bit. There's always a first time for everything. It's just come out a little bit so you can see a bit clearer. So we're going to turn the ends of our zip panels over, and then we're going to stitch it, and then that's when I'll put my zipper foot on. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do, and I'll show you each stage as we go along. I've got to bring my machine in now, so we'll go back to the front camera so it's a little bit more interesting. Right, let's put my instructions somewhere. There we go. So hopefully we're all set up and good to go. I haven't tested the machine out, but I'm sure it's fine. And there we are. So we're good to go. So, well, yeah, Abigail, yes, I know. That's what I've got it on record. But well, unless you're talking to somebody else, of course. Oh, Maggie says she got it on record as well. Yes, and going through the ads is a good idea, because fast forward and everything. So look, I'm just literally popping the end of the zip between those two layers, and if you're anything like me, this wretched machine, although it's a good machine, sometimes now you could use your seam jump for this, but I've got my Trish's tool here, which is awesome, and if you haven't got yours yet, I'm sure Trish will supply you with one. And that pushes it through beautifully, so I just use that. I don't use anything extra or different with my needle or anything like that. Oh, it's a bit wonky. Oh heck, that's not a good start, is it? Yeah, I don't use anything different with my needle or anything like that. Can I live with that? Oh, if I pull it about a bit, that'll be all right. Yeah, so I just sort of go for it really. Now I haven't done the back stitch on there because it's not doing anything. You could do a locking stitch if you want to, but that's no way is that going to come undone. I'm happy about that. Hopefully you are as well. But obviously if you want to do a locking stitch, do a locking stitch. No locking stitch. So look, all I've done is tuck the end of that zip in there. Folded that back, and then it folds over again, so it's literally just sandwiched, and I'm sandwiching the very top of the zip into the fold. Okay, if you wanted your zip a little bit longer, then you could pull it out a little bit, yeah, but basically it kind of holds it in place like that. So let's use Trish's tool again. I'm going to have, that's what it's going to be called now, isn't it? Trish's tool. So yes, like I say, if you want one of these, I'm sure Maggie, Trish's friend, will be more than happy to oblige. But they are rather super. And who was it today that got theirs? Was it today that I saw that? And you said how beautiful it was. Hopefully you're on here tonight. Was it Maggie? I don't know if it was. So this is where my machine gets stuck, and this is where you need the jumper. Bulky sea maid. Oh, come on, you silly thing. I don't know if I've got it handy. You have a scoot. Oh, let me have a look. Oh, here it is. Keep everything in its box and then I can see it better. So this is a good time to use it, especially if your machine is anything like mine. It's a blooming good machine, but it really doesn't like starting off on anything that's a little bit bulky, or it's just temperamental. And yet they are. I wouldn't be without it. I really love the machine, but by golly, it's fussy. So anyway, there we are. Gosh, get myself into bother. If my mum's watching, because she's a Benina fan. Yeah. So have you seen the other little video that I did on the new sort of purse, new sort of shape? I saw that myself and I thought, you know what, that's got to be shared because it's such a great design. Such a great design. Okay, so there we are. Here we go. Let's just snip those ends off, keep it tidy. So there's my, could be better. There's my zip done, okay? Happy about that? So now all we've got to do is to do the zip panels, and that's just a case of turning over 1/4 of an inch on each end. So make sure I don't get my bits and bobs mixed up. And of course you could use quilting tape if you want to stick those 1/4 inch down. So let me just quickly show you. You'll see on the actual pattern instructions, let's get that out of the way. On the pattern instructions, you'll see what I mean, because all you're going to do is fold this under 1/4 of an inch. This is the lining, by the way. And then on this one, and actually what I do is I cut my wadding down 1/4 of an inch as well, and we can just pop that over like that, and that's how we stitch, sandwich the zip between, and that's how we stitch them. You don't have to top stitch these down at the moment, but you can if you want to, but we do that sort of after we've done after we've put the zip in. That's when we top stitch, but you couldn't do it now if you want, but then again you'd have to do you would have to do another top stitch to hold the two layers together. I'll show you what I mean. Now this is where you need to get this into the middle. You need to do your best to get it into the middle. So we'll just sort of mark it. I'll get a pin and just pop a pin in there, just so I've found the middle of my zip, and I'm going to find the middle of my lining, and I'm just going to crease it. You could just take a little snip out if you want to, just a wee snip. There we go, a little snip there, and pop that over the top. And then you want to find, yeah, not bad, and then we find the middle of the top as well, the main fabric. So again, we could do a little snip just to make sure. There we go. And so you're making a zip sandwich. So let's do this so you can see. Let's get the old machine out of the way. So you've got right sides up with your lining fabric. You've got right sides up with your zip. And can you see there's my little notch there? Okay, there's my little notch. Might put a little cross there so you can see. In fact, look, I'm going to put a dot there. Right, so I know that's where you're going to see. So there's my little notch. There's my pin. So that's going to go over the top of there like that. And I can pin those together. Okay, and then I've got my top bit, which is going to go right side down. All right, and we're going to stitch it all along here. And obviously, again, I've got my little notch. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to just pin that all together right in the middle, and that gives us a great head start, doesn't it? Oh, blunt needle, crikey. Let's get another one. Here we go. Don't like needles, but pins, I mean. But that works a treat. So when we come up the other end, you'll see the zip pull is nicely out of the way. Just make sure that your lining fabric and your top fabric are lined up together like that. So you've made a little sandwich. So that's sort of folded over there. Can you see that? Okay. And then you've got the zip right side up facing you, and then you've got your main fabric there. So I'm going to change to my zipper foot, and I'm going to stitch all the way down the zip right to the other end and fold that when I get to the end. Okay, fold that up. So that's that bit. I hope I'm not going too fast for you, because obviously I want this we want to do as much as we can in this hour. So change to a zipper foot, and it is good to use a zipper foot because you get right close up to the fairly close up to the teeth of the zip, which is really good. So just move my needle right over to the left. I like having the needle on the left and coming down on that side, on the right side of the zip. That suits me. I'll just take my clip out and just make sure it's all lined up, and make sure that fabric is just where I need it to be. I will do a back stitch. Ooh, that's it. We got it. We got it. That's it. We got it. And just come all the way down. Like I say, the Bernina zipper foot is really narrow, and consequently you can't really, doesn't grab a lot. Although you've got the feed dogs there, it's too narrow a foot. In some machines, or a lot of machines, the foot is actually quite wide, and that's much better. So if you've got one like that, brilliant. Honestly, really good, really good. So I'm tucking my ends over, so the folds I said at the other end. So I'm folding those over. You can glue those if you want. Like I say, use your quilter's tape, because that really is a great product to help you keep everything in order. Really does. There we go. So we've done one side. So when we open it up, so that's what I've just done. Let's do it. So that's the side you saw, and so now all I need to do is just bring that back and bring the lining back. So if I show you on the overhead, that's probably the best thing to do. Got my dot now, see, look at that dot. So there's what we were looking at before. Hopefully you can see that okay. And then all I'm going to do is fold that back. There's my lining underneath, that folds back. And so when we look at it both sides, all of this comes over, and that just that end bit and this part here, that all gets top stitched nice and neatly, and that keeps the fabric away from the zipper, the teeth of the zip. So we're going to do the other side now. So I'm just going to pin it and stitch it, and the only thing I would say to you is just make sure that your ends match up. So when, oh, that hasn't caught that fold, so I'll just fold that in a sec. So when you start here, just make sure that that is absolutely level with the last one that you did. So I'm just going to have a quick look at that and make sure I catch it, because and it's good that you see if something hasn't quite gone according to plan, because it'll happen to you. But never be afraid, because we can always just unpick that and just repeat it. Oh, hello, I lost my computer. Oh, crikey. So let's make sure we're still live. Yes, we're still live. No, I listen, I know what it's like. So I'm going to go from the back of it so I can see that zip. So that's powered down. I wonder why. I'll have to switch it on again in a sec. So just do a little back stitch and just come forward a wee bit. That's all I had to do, just to get that fold in the back of the zip. Let's see if I can switch that back on. I wonder if I pulled the power out. More than likely. I'll have to get up and have a little investigate in a minute. So now what we've got is both sides have got the folds nice and neatly and the lining it's all lovely. Just could do with a good press, to be perfectly honest. So now we're just going to do the other side. So again, start with the zip on your right. I will just pin that so all these pieces keep out the way. There we go. So it's a case of folding that end over again, 1/4 inch. It's gone really quiet because my computer makes a lot of whirring noises. Goodness knows, it must have run out of power, and yet I've got it. I thought I had it plugged in. Anyway. So yeah, so just make sure that you've got your right sides facing the zip. So my lining and my top fabric is right sides to the zip, and we'll start from there. Let's see if I can. Might be a good idea if I put some tape on there. There we go. Oh, it's gone really quiet. I could do with John now coming to sort my electrics out. He's taken the dog for a walk. So of course, you see, I can't see your comments now. I'm assuming you're still there. I've no idea now. Oh my gosh. What about if I'm on my own? Well, if it's still recording, it's fine, isn't it? Because then you can see it later. So I'm just top stitching that zip in again. Don't know why my machine is mucking me about today. And then just as I say, line up all your zip and your fabric. We didn't find the middle this time because I'm just literally, I wanted to line up those top bits so they're fairly decent. And I was more concerned about that than whether I'd got the middle fine with the pieces or not. It's that first one you do, really. So just come all the way along, and you'll find that your zipper foot has been designed never to jump over your zip teeth. Mine hasn't. Although I have to say, a lady did the other day. I was, where was I that I saw that? Can't remember. But her oh yes, when I did my workshop last week, and she jumped over, and there was a reason for. Oh, I know the reason. She was stitching the zip from the back, so she hadn't got the teeth to guide her, and that's why she went over her zip teeth, because it really confused me for a minute, and I thought, how on earth has she done that? But it was because she'd was stitching from the back, which I can fully understand, because the fabric we were using was really highly decorative, and it was difficult to see where she wanted to go, so I fully understand why she did that. So just stitch that fold over again at the back. For whatever reason, it was deciding it didn't want to fold that piece either. Typical, really. So now all you're going to do is do the top stitching. So I'm going to put my regular foot back on again, like that, and don't forget to bring your needle back to the middle. I'm just going to quickly have a look at my power situation, so bear with. I've got enough lead here to whiz me round, so bear with. I'm just going to fight my way past the cameras and see why my power isn't working. I'll just check all my bits and bobs. Oh, I can see what's happened. Oh dear. Bear with, ladies and gents. Oh, there's no gents, is there? Right, I should have power now. Because I like to see what you're saying. See if I can switch it back on again. God, since I've grown my hair, all I do is fluff my hair out my face. Right. So all I'm doing really could do with a press, but I don't want to waste time pressing. So now all I'm going to do is top stitch. So I'm going to start at one end. I'll take my pins out and make sure that all of these pieces are out the way. So where you've got both sides now, just make sure that when you top stitch, all of this is out the way. Otherwise you'll end up stitching that. So hopefully we can just top stitch that. Right, I'm just going to sign into my pooter, if I can reach it. To the newbies that have, if you are watching today and wonder what the heck is going on, this does happen with me. You can listen. You can. Everybody will tell you that this happens to me. Oh, here we go. Oh, phew! I'm back. Phew! I can see you all now. When I say I see you, you're keeping me company. You have no idea, because I can see your names on the screen. I can see your comments. And I know sometimes you talk amongst yourselves and you can completely ignore me, which is fab. I love that more than anything. But I do feel now I can see you. You're keeping me company now, which is much, much nicer for me, because before that was a little bit spooky. So look, I'm just topping stitch this. I'm also making sure I'm bringing the sides of my lining and my fabric together. Oh gosh, this is playing me up tonight. So I'm kind of pulling the edges of that together. So on this side here where you've got the raw edges, I'm making sure that they meet, because there's nothing worse than doing all this top stitch and you realise that your lining had slipped across. If you give it a really good press, that won't happen, I promise. But if you're doing it like me without a good press, that could easily happen, where your lining gets caught up. And you want both of those pieces to be super, because that's going to be encased into the actual main bag. So there's one side. I feel I'm on a roll now. I don't know why my machine is being naughty. Well, it's going to, isn't it? It's just what they call sod's law. Yeah, so let's just trim my threads off, making it nice and neat. Yeah, so I've had a really good week. Have you? I've had some time off, and I've actually got more time off. I think I might not get away with so much time off as I thought, but I'm really loving it, because I'm going to try and get a bit of a head start kind of next weekish with November's patterns. And I've had a bit of a thought about what I'm going to do. So already the old creative sort of juices are flowing. But I've got to be careful that I don't, because it's got a theme. I'm not going to tell you what it is now, because you've only just had the new pans. But I don't want to overdo it. So I've got to, it's like when you see the runways, the fashion runways, and their designs are so crazy. And you think, nobody's going to wear that. Well, no, they don't. But what they do is that they dilute it down, don't they, for the high street. And that's basically how I kind of see it, that I have this wild idea and then, hold on, I don't think you guys will go for it at all. So, so there we are. Let's just show that on the overhead so you can see what I've done. So it's not too bad a job. And I've top stitched, you can see, all the way down, so it's a nice neat job. So we can put that to one side now, and what we'll do is we'll do the tab. We'll make sure that that's done. So again, I've cut off a little bit of the fleece there, just so when I turn it through it's not bulky. So we're going to do right sides together, and I'm going to stitch from here. So I'm going to stitch from here round to here and then up again. Okay, so that's the next stage of what we're going to do. Now that might not quite fit in with the pattern that what I've written. It's just a case of what I think of next. As long as you've got those component parts made and ready to go onto your pocket, your Polly Pocket, then it doesn't matter really which order. And of course the next thing we need to do is the handle. Now you'll find that the handle is slightly wider than the bag itself, and that's deliberate, because the idea is with the handle, and you might have seen a photo, I can't remember if I posted a photo of that, of where you can actually put your hand through the handle and hold the bottom of the bag, if you like. And I'm doing me umming and ahhing a lot tonight, aren't I? I've noticed that. I'll try not to. Yeah, so deliberately I did it a very small amount. I wouldn't even think it was even 1/4 inch, but it's just a little bit bigger than the actual width of the bag, just so you can get your hand in there, and it's not too tight. And it's not meant to grab you, it's meant just to so your hand slips behind it, and then everything is secure. Especially if you sort of vamp it up a bit and make it suitable for maybe a little iPad or something like that, or to carry your phone in. I'm going to top stitch this, or pop your phone in, or your, if you're going out for the day, you just don't want to take much with you, then that would be a good option. And you could put your phone in there. Well, you don't want anybody to whip it off out of your hand, and they couldn't, because you've got that strap there. So I thought that was a good sort of bit of a feature. So we're just top stitching this so that it looks, I don't know if I did with the original, I'd have to look back, but I think it looks quite nice with a top stitch anyway. That's what we're going to do. Doesn't matter. So, oh, come on, machine. Doesn't want to grab tonight. So it's just, it knows, doesn't it? It knows when I'm doing a Facebook Live, and everything has to be perfect. It never is. Oh gosh, love it. I've also given up trying to put these on YouTube for general public, because they're not understanding that it's a pattern on my website. It's just, politics. Handle somewhere. Handle. I've got the gusset. Did I cut it? Did I actually cut it out? Does anybody know? I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. That's okay, we can do that. We can do that. Oh. This is where I need an assistant. Oh. Just picking my pattern piece up. So, do you know what? I've had some offers from people today to help me, and I really appreciate it. I don't think I cut it, just remembered. Good intentions. And to be honest, you know what? You could cut this with your rotary cutter. I just didn't want to bring all my mat and gubbins in, so I'm just doing this freestyle. Now, I haven't put any wadding in this. You could, to make it nice and soft. But I won't, because my wadding is way over there, and there's no point me leaping up to get that. Oh, look at this, little scrap pieces. Will that be big enough? Let's have a look. Oh yes, you beauty. Sorry. You must think I'm crackers. I have to say, you see me in my raw state. When I say my raw state, you know what I mean. Just me, being me, talking to myself in my workroom. John's watching football. Well, I think he's come back from his walk, although I haven't seen Millie. Because we normally see Millie, don't we, the dog? She comes up to see us, and I haven't seen her, so maybe he's still out walking the dog. I've just brought my ironing because this is a little bit rough. So I'm just going to snip this. It's not quite right, but I want to iron it first because it's a little bit askew. So we'll give it a nice little iron. And I have to say, it's much easier cutting fabric when it's lovely and ironed. It just is. So let's just get that out of the way, bring that up and just trim that. See, it's nearly a quarter of an inch out. So let's just do that. I'm really looking forward to using this one, I'll be honest with you. Because of the colours, I'm wanting to put wadding in it now. Do you think I should? Have we got time? I don't suppose we've got time. What time is it? It's 22, guys. I mean, it doesn't matter for me because I'm recording. But for you, if you have to scoot off, you scoot off. Totally understand. But we'll get as much done as I think you need if I think that we can get away with not finishing it. I know you like to see it finished, but let me know, because I'm quite happy to carry on till it's done. And I really want a piece of wadding in that. Oh, have I got any handy? Oh, I can see a bit. Just bear with. Bear with. Did you see I've got a chair on wheels now? There we go. Oh yes. I've got a bit here, guys, so we're all right. We're okay. Just get me. Got a little bit. Okay. I changed my mind. I'm sure I didn't think I put wadding in the other one, but perhaps I did because it doesn't feel like it would be cozy enough. So I think the wadding is going to add to it. And actually, I'm perfectly honest, I would cut this down just a wee bit. We can top stitch if you're ever worried about that, because I use like just the temporary glue, and if you're ever worried about the fact that you're cutting it down so it doesn't go into the seam allowance, you shouldn't worry, because oftentimes we top stitch, don't we? And when you're top stitching, you're going to catch that wadding, and it will be nice and secure. You can always quilt it if you feel adventurous. That'll do nicely. So I'll get my spray in. Fortunately, that's handy. And just give it a little spray. That should do the ticket. Over the top. Right sides together with the lining. And we're good to go. Don't forget, with this, ideally, you're going to turn this through, not leaving a turning gap. Do you know what I mean? So you're going to turn it through at one of the ends there. I have to say, because I know that might take me a minute, I'm going to leave a turning gap, but you're not going to, okay? You're going to turn it through from the short ends, but I can do it this way, and then it speeds things up for me. And again, we don't need to go the short ends because they're going to get caught in the seams. So then we're going to go all the way along this end here. Just do a little back stitch. Oh, there's John. So we'll have a little visit from Millie now, as we normally do, don't we? She comes up. There we go. All the way along. And if you want to, you could, if you do the back stitches on the short ends, because if you turn it through, here she comes, you're going to split those stitches if you don't do a back stitch. So it's important to do that, because it's going to take a lot of pressure. Oh, can't you get through, Millie? Can't you get through? Let's bring my iron up. Millie, where are you? Come say hello. All right, come on, that's it. There we go. Oh, Millie. Oh, you're very cold. It's very cold. There she is. You can't see her. She's just down there. I belong to a Tibetan Terrier Facebook page. And it's funny because you always think it's your dog that's crackers and does ridiculous things, or, you know, barks at certain things, all those sort of things that are characteristic of a dog. And of course we belong to this Tibetan Terrier Facebook page, and they're all the same. And I don't know if you find that with the breed of dog that you might have, but they literally are totally crackers. And it was good to see that she wasn't the only one that laid upside down with her head dangling off the sofa, looking like she'd just collapsed and died. When of course you know about the walking along in the walks and then suddenly collapsing over. I'm talking about you, Millie. Yes, good girl, aren't you? Yes, you're a good girl. And yeah, so it turns out that other Tibetan Terriers do that as well. So you think, phew, she's not the only one that does that sort of thing. And you kind of feel a little bit more, you know, relaxed. Because honestly, some people think, oh, you've been really cruel to your dog. It's too hot for her, or, you know, we've walked her too far. All those things that people say. And actually, it's a trait of the dog. Right, so what I've done, I don't know if you noticed, but it gave it an iron because I need to top stitch that piece closed. So we'll go ahead and do that. How are we getting on? Is everybody all right? Oh, the prim. That's definitely enough on it. Oh, Jackie says she's staying to the end. Thank you for your offer as well, Jackie. Yes, and actually, if I put the big foot on this machine, it would probably behave itself a bit better. I've got the 1/4 inch foot on, and it's a funny thing because there's not enough there to grab sometimes the fabric, whereas the bigger foot is, obviously. But I do like having the 1/4 inch foot on there. So I'm just literally running my machine across the end of that short end because that raw edge seam is going in where the gusset's going to go, so I'm not bothered about it. It was just a case of moving the thread across. So you might as well just do a stitch, mightn't you? Right, here we go. We're rocking and rolling, kids. We're rocking and rolling. Right, so I've done the handle. Got a few loose ends there. Let's have a look. Snip it off. Let's do an overhead. Let's have a look. So I've done the handle, so I've top stitched it. Looks nice, doesn't it? It looks lovely in that fabric. I do love that fabric. Sorry about all the shading going on. It's because of my lights. Here we go, that's a bit better. So done the handle, we've done the tab, and we've done the zip, okay? We've got the gusset and we've got the main bag here to do. So the next stage is to put the zip in. So, well, not necessarily the zip. What we're going to do is put the zip in and the tab at the same time. So one of these is going to be the back, all right? We'll find the center again. So I'll just bring it in and just find the center. Make sure that's nicely folded and give that a little snip so you know that's the center. I can see that. Okay, just there. The tab, I don't need to find the center of that. That can go, and make sure that you do it so it's right side down, all right? So it's right side down. This is the back of the bag or pocket, and it's going to come over that way. So it's the right side down. What we'll do is we'll get a quilting clip and we'll put that together. Hold on, I can't do it. I can't see. It's too far away from me. I think we're about right. I think we're about right in the center there. So because that's the back, we also need to make sure that our handle, let's get that out of the way. I'll put my mouse on there, look. My handle has to go across the back as well. And you bring the raw edges up. So you know I said this is a little bit longer. The reason for that is that if we bring that raw edge in a little bit, I mean, it's hardly enough to even worry about, but it kind of loops it up a little bit. You can see that beautifully there. And that's exactly how I want it to look, all right? So I'm just going to clip that in. I'll just straighten that off a little bit. And there is a mark on your pattern. I'm not using it. So you might use it. I'm just sort of guessing this. And you want it sort of on the top third, if you like. So that being the line there. And then let's move that out of the way. And then just bring that raw edge in like that. And then put a clip on there. In fact, what you could do is stay stitch that so you don't have to worry about it anymore, and that's what I'm going to do. but this is where we need to put the zip in. All right, so so you can see that the zip is smaller than the bag, and that's exactly how it should be, and the zips are longer, which is exactly how it should be. All right, so all we're going to do is put that, so this is the right side, this is the right side, flip it over. Okay, line it up so you've got, I don't know, not quite, perhaps half an inch either end, and that's going to be stitched in that sort of layer, if you like. Now there's a lot of layering going on. You could cut some of this wadding away if you want to. I think my machine will be fine with it. And then when we stitch across here, or just stitch all the way along, that's fine. Then when you flip it over, can you see how you're starting to make the bag, and this little part's going to come over like that. All right, so it's all working out beautifully. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stay stitch these ends here, this end and this end, and I'm going to stitch that part of the zip in there. All right, so that's what I'm going to do now, just so you can see what I'm doing. So I'll do the little handle bits first. Keep that clip in, because if you take the clip out, it's bound to move. So you're stitching about 1/8 of an inch from the raw edge. Yeah, don't need to do a back stitch. Just trim your threads, otherwise sometimes they come up through the seams, don't they? Which is very annoying. And then just stay stitched the other side. I'm hoping that I've got that lined up. When I do the overhead for you, it's way over and I can't see over the top of it. And I suppose I could have used my pattern. That's why I do it. So you've got a visual, but I've kind of gone a bit guessy, so you can see. The thing is, the main thing is that it's being put together and you can see how that works. Right, so the handle is attached. Okay, that's now attached. It stays stitched, which means I don't have to worry about it anymore. That handle and that bag becomes one piece of fabric. So because that's the back, that's where the flap is attached. You want to see the lining. And then this is the zip here. And when I bring that down to get a nice little sandwich, again, you've got the lining. Okay, that's what you're looking at. So you're looking at the lining of the flap and the lining of the zip panel. And it's going to be, we're going to put that roughly in the center. Well, when I say roughly, get it in the center. And again, but this is where you're going to do, well, do a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch. All right. Because we've got to put the lining in there yet. So I'm just helping my machine. It's going to get a severe telling off. So yeah, so obviously you're going to put your lining in there. So you want about not quite 1/4 of an inch. It's not far off, and this is puckering up a little bit because there's a lot of layers and a lot of fabric. It's the lining. I'm not too worried about it, but quite honestly, you know what? Get your walking foot out. Serious, give it a go, because it'll stop that from puckering. I'm okay about it, to be fair, because it's not, you're not going to see it really, because it's, like I say, it's the lining. But if you want to make a cracking job, you get your walking foot on it. Have a little, like I say, have a little go. See how you get on. So there we are. So that's our zip, one side installed. Yes. Happy. So now we're going to do the other side. And that's easy peasy. Just make sure this tab stays out the way. So get a pin and hold it back. You don't need that to, you know what I mean, get a pin just to keep it in place, because you don't want that getting in the way of your stitching. And then all you're going to do again is find the middle. Well, to be honest, I would just line this up with the piece that you've just done. Let me do an overhead so you can see. So look, that's the piece we've just stitched. Okay, so all I'm going to do is line up my top to match this. So all of this, yeah, all of this is lined up. That's all I'm doing it with. Can you see? So I'm not lining it up with that. Don't get confused. I'm lining it up with the back piece, right? And then I'm just going to stitch along the top of that zip there, which is right underneath the top of my fabric. So I'm going to stitch right along there. If we turn it over that way, that's what it looks like. Just get that machine out of the way. So that's what it looks like, and we've got about a 1/2 inch at both ends, but it lines up beautifully with my bag here. All right, happy? Yes, good. So we could put a clip in there, and I'm just going to stitch from the end all the way across, just a wee bit under a 1/4 inch. If you want to go 1/4 inch, fine. Do whatever you feel best. But like I said, because there's so many layers going on, it can pucker. So like I said, get your walking foot on it. I think I must have said that about 20 times now. And you're saying, sure, stop telling me. The other thing you can do, and often I do, is actually stretch both layers of fabric together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't want to do this tonight. It's not being good with me at all. Oh my gosh, it's always the way. That's okay. I don't get too upset about things like that. And of course you could, again, you could use your quilter's tape. You know, when I talk about quilter's tape, you know I mean this stuff. Because then it glues it down. I was doing a demonstration last week in a couple of shops, and I talked to the ladies there about quilter's tape. And to be fair, they didn't really know what I was talking about, so it was lovely to show that to them. So look, there's your bag. All you've got to do now is put the gusset in, so I'll do that, and then we just make up the lining and it's actually done. So it's kind of super quick. I've got excuse me, I've got a stud to put in as well, and I'm going to use the metal stud. So if any of you have used the metal studs, that's what I'm going to use. So just make sure that, oh, pretty sure that's fine. You know, have one of those moments, you think, is that the right size? So all you're going to do is open up your fabric now. So let's do the overhead. Let's make sure you can see this. So here we go. So there's the bag. This is the gusset we're going to put in. So you need to open that up. Do you see that? We've got a raw edge just there. So that needs to go right up to that raw edge. Okay. Now I never pin this. I just kind of go for it. When I get to this corner here, I always snip into this, and I tend to always stitch with the gusset. I'm looking at the gusset, so I can manipulate this gusset around. Okay, so I cut not a quarter inch, I cut a little diagonal line when I get to that corner, and that allows me to turn that piece of fabric, do you see, around like that, and then I can carry on. So try that. Don't do it 1/4 inch because you're cutting to your seam, but just a little bit less than a 1/4 inch. So let's get this stitched. How are you getting on? Are you all right? Oh, miniature dash out. Oh, Shirley. Oh my gosh. Oh, crackers. Yeah. She's biting her nails. Well, she's worried. She's worried that you're going to ask her to do stitching. See, if it's like Millie, she sort of comes up, says, oh, she's stitching again. I'm going downstairs with me dad. So really, where you start to think, oh gosh, this is too complicated for me, look back at this, keep looking at it. The idea is that it's there for you to always see it, and it's never as difficult as you think it's going to be, and you just got to take your time. I mean, I'm rushing like crazy. Now, do you see how that little, I don't know if you, I know you can't see this very well. Okay, I get that. I wonder if I can zoom in. No, because then we're going to lose the machine a little bit. But when you cut that little notch into the corner, it really does allow you to turn your fabric, and that really makes a huge difference when you're stitching something like this, because you think, how am I going to get that, you know, the strip into a rectangle and turn corners with it? And it would be tricky if you didn't have the little snip into the corner, but you're snipping the gusset, you're not snipping the bag. Okay, just to make sure. And if you're at all worried, again, look how much extra we've got, probably about 3.5 inches. So all the way up, right up to that top raw edge. So open that up so you can see it. And then you're just going straight up there. And you might find that your zip panels are right alongside. Don't worry about that. That's fine. It's all down to your stitching and if you've done a true 1/4 of an inch or not or anything like that. It doesn't matter. The main thing is that you've done it. See how big that is? This is it is absolutely purposeful because I want to make sure that you've got plenty there. And all I'm going to do is snip that away. I'm just going to eyeball it and snip it away. Done. So now what we're going to do is come down the other side, and it's never so easy to come down the other side. I'm covered in bits because you will find that you'll start with the bag on top, and you know I said to you about you've got to have the gusset, so you need to turn all this bag around and make sure that you're stitching on the gusset again, and that makes it super easy. Honestly, once you make these you'll realize what I'm talking about. So you don't want to be stitching with the bag part on top, it's always the gusset. Okay, I think I've said that enough now. And then just repeat, literally you're just repeating, you're coming down the other side and you just snip as you get into the corner. You might find that if you've stretched the fabric at all that it doesn't quite work the same as it did the first time around. You know, the first time, I'm going to do a little back stitch there because I just snipped a little bit further than I wanted to. But don't worry about that, don't worry. The main thing is to make one and see how you get on, and I bet anything you like you'll make another one. Like I say, I use a diary or notepad all the time, and I find these it's just lovely to go into your bag and see something made out of fabric, especially if it's a bag you've made. And I'm still using my Sophia bag. I love it. It's so big and roomy, and I'm thinking I might at some point put a pocket in, because I put my mobile phone in there and I lose it. It just goes into this cavernous bag and I never see it again. I have to search. So I might put a little pocket in there just to help it. Anyway, there we are. So going over the bag handle now, just coming up the other side. And that is a little bit longer. We'll see. But don't worry about it, like I say. Worst things happen at sea, as my mother says. There we go. I think that's about right. As long as you've made sure that the end of the seam, the end of where the bag is, that you've gone over that seam, you know, where the zip is, just flatten that seam out so the raw edges are nice and flat, and then you're good to go. Oh, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. I might trim it. In fact, yes, it's perfectly fine. I just need to trim it all the way along. Ooh, there we are. Oh. So look, that's the bag actually made. Don't forget to leave your zip open, she says. I'm thinking I didn't leave that zip open because that is quite important. Oh my gosh, come on, let's do it. Let's concentrate. Forget about the fact that you should have opened it. There we go. So okay, so we've done it, we've made it, because we've got to do the lining. So that's super quick, because all we're doing with the lining is doing just what we've just done with the gusset and the main two parts of the bag. But that's it made, and that's the zip panel in there, and at some point that needs a really good press. And if you've got a pressing ham, you know what I mean by that, use that to get it really nice and crispy. So now all we're going to do is we're going to fold that zip back, ready to put our lining on. I want you to have a look at that just so you know what I'm talking about. So let's get this out of the way. Got me dot. Look. So look, that's how it looks. Okay, we've got raw edges here because that's how it should look, because we've just put that gusset on. That's the back, that's the front. But what you need to do now is fold that zip back on itself. Okay. And what that does, can you see, it exposes that raw edge There, can you see that? So that's your raw edge that you're going to slightly a little bit out, but just ignore that. That's where you're going to stitch your lining to. Okay, so you need to have that raw edge showing. So that's how you want to leave that. We're going to put the lining together now, and then we'll do the right side of the lining to the right side of this, stitch all the way along, and we've actually done, which is not too bad considering it's only, oh, that's it, it's only about 5 past. 5:10 past, so we're not too bad. Still covered in bits. Right, so all we're going to do is do exactly what we did before just a minute ago, and we're going to just put the gusset in. Now don't forget, you need to leave a turning gap. So I'll put this on complete, and then I'll leave the turning gap on the second part round. Okay, so again, snip into your straight piece and then lift up, swivel round and move your fabric out of the way. Like I say, if you're ever worried about the fact that you've snipped, do that little back stitch there just to secure that corner. So all the way along, and like I say, if you have stretched your fabric in any way, you might find that your gusset has twisted a little bit, but you could pin it really well or use your quilting clips really well, and that'll hold it really nicely in place while you stitch it, and then it should stay, your gusset won't twist basically. You don't really want a twisted gusset. So I'm just going to trim that off right across. Or I could do a bit more. And just give a little back stitch there. Super job. So that's one side. Let me just trim that away. That's it. Oh gosh, bits everywhere. So that's one side done. Okay. There we go. So now I'm going to do the other. And don't forget, you put the bag on top, and you automatically want to go to the right hand side, but you want to go to the left to pick up the straight of the gusset. So it's always the gusset you stitch. I think I've said that more than enough times now. And that rule still applies if you're making a bag that's round, curved in any way. It's just easier, even though, like I say, the gusset is a sort of straight edge. It does work really well if that's on the top. So again, just snip into your corner, down to the bottom. Lovely. Turn it, twist your fabric. You're kind of making your fabric 45-degree angle as you turn it, like you would if you were putting binding on a quilt. Do a little back stitch to secure if you feel you need to. I'm doing a back stitch there because I'm going to jump across, maybe there. Just make sure that your the layers have kept together, that you haven't made your bag shorter to your gusset. Make sure that the gusset and the bag are nice and flat under there. You want it to fit nicely. If you get to the end and you've got a piece of gusset that long, you think that maybe that's what you've done. So look back at that. So again, we'll just snip. Whoop, nearly missed the corner there. Turn around. Do a little back stitch just to make sure. I mean, to be honest, with all the layers that you've got here, and you're just having a book in there. I mean, this is great for if you've on your holidays and you want to take a book with you, and you can protect it and keep it nice. And also, you see, you can pop some money in there, and you know, all that sort of thing. So look, there's our gusset. And of course, you could give it a press. All of these things can be pressed at every stage, and then when you come to the end, you won't have much pressing to do, and it looks beautiful. And to be honest, if you've got a little mini iron, it's difficult still to get into those corners. So look, there's our bag with the zip folded down, and there's our lining, but we want the right side of the line to the right side of the bag. So as I was. And you're literally just folding that inside. You're making a bag sandwich. And the main thing here is just to make sure that your gusset pieces line up fairly well, okay? That's the main thing. And do the best you can. Get it so it's sitting in there really nicely. And to be honest, once it sits in there really nicely, it tends to line itself up. That's fine. And then just have a little check at the ends. I'll just take some of these threads out of the way. So, oh, yep, I'm liking the look at that. Just make sure your zip is out of the way. I nearly stitched across the tab there. I just spotted it. There we go, push that out of the way. I'm happy with that. This is the last bit. Now I'm going to take my table off. Doesn't matter where you start, anywhere that you're comfortable. If you can see your original stitch line, then just go on the outside of that. So I'm going over the back now with all the flap and the wadding, and your machine should be able to take it fine. So you're literally now stitching all the way around. There's nothing special about this. Just got to make sure that you've got all your layers caught, and have a little check, you know, when you've finished, to make sure that everything is caught. To be honest, once you have put your lining inside and you make it snug, it shouldn't really move. Now the other thing I've got to remember is that I've got a pin where my tab is, so I've got to be really careful when I turn through. So just go over that last little bit, make sure my zip tab isn't there. I don't think it is. But obviously you're going to be a lot more careful than me. Right, so we've gone all the way around. Looks good. I'm happy. I've just got, like I said, I've just got to watch that pin that I don't stab myself as I'm turning it through. So we'll turn it through. And like I say, I know we're scrunching it up and creasing it a little bit while we're turning through, but if you've already given it a really good press, it wouldn't take much to get that looking gorgeous again. And don't forget to, I'm not going to do it tonight, but don't forget to stitch your turning gap, and you could even top stitch around this just to hold it nicely in place. Once you've got it pressed, let's get my tab sorted. Once you've got it pressed, that does lie a little bit flatter. Let me show you on the overhead. So here we go. So obviously it needs a jolly good press, but all of this, where it's sticking up there now, once you press it, and you, like I say, you could even top stitch it if you want to, that will lie a little bit flatter. So when you put your book in there, it will lie quite nicely, and it sort of bulks it out. You can see already it's got that nice sort of bulky shape because we've got the gusset in there, so it's rather super. And like I say, it needs a jolly good press. Now I've got the metal stud to put in here, but obviously we need to make sure that we get this side perfect. Now I've put a little mark on your pattern piece for it, and it's just about there, so I'm going to sort of do a bit of a guesstimate as that it's there. Ideally you could do this before you put the bag together, because you're going to see it here, the back of the workings, if you like, but it's not so ugly. It's not so ugly that it's going to look horrible, but it's just something maybe that you'd want to do before you put the bag together. So when I bring that over, that looks perfectly fine to me. So what we'll do is we'll put a little pin in there. So we'll have, like I say, it's on your pattern piece. So I've got a pin there, so I know that's where my top stud goes, where my button goes, and then my other part goes there. So we'll do that. Shall I do that on the overhead so you can see? I don't know if you've got this system. I still think this system is probably the best that we've ever done. And obviously, although it's work stuff, I do apologise because I'm talking work. Actually, this really is a good system where you've got the studs and you've got the hammer and all that sort of gubbins. So the first thing to do is to make a hole. So I have an old embossing mat which does absolutely the right thing, and all we're going to do is I'm just going to keep my eye on that, and that's where I'm going to make my hole like that. And then we need, this is where we put the popper on. So that's the popper and that's the back of it. So the back goes through here to the front. Let's find the hole. There we go. Let's get it in there. Hold on. There it is. So hopefully you can see that. I don't know if I can come in any closer so you can see. So I've popped the back of that through the hole. So that's what it looks like on the back. Okay, I'm going to get that out of the way. And then I put the little, what I call the little Chinese hat over the top. And then I get the tool that has the indentation, pop that over the top and give it a hammer, okay? Sorry if that was noisy. So that's attached that part. So for this part, we've got the little pin there so we can see where that needs to go. Again, I get my mat in, so about there. Get my hole maker, make a hole. This time we're going to put the button in that side. Goes well with the fabric, doesn't it? So the button in there, and then the stud on the back. Okay, and then I need this little dish like that. So that little dish protects my button. That keeps that button from being knocked about. So there's the back of the stud there, look. Okay, and this time we need the tool that has the little pointy bit, and that goes in the hole inside the middle of that. So I'm going to bang again. Whoops. So hopefully that's done that, and that's in, that's done. So we've made a cracking job of that, and that then of course folds on there, and we've got a popper and a beautifully made little bag is all sorted. And of course, like I said before, your hand can go down here and sort of grab that. And so if you're using a tablet and you're making that for a tablet, then it's going to look fab. So what do you think to that? We just about did it, didn't we? I mean, I know it's 20 past. I do apologise. I don't like to keep you more than an hour. I always say that and then I do. But that's it. It's made. It needs a jolly good press. But that's the popper in there, and obviously my zip closes up beautifully, and that's going to make a lovely bookcase. And I will give it a good press, pop it on Facebook tomorrow so you can see the finished article, and I'll be putting my diary in there because actually I love this fabric. Beautiful. So that's that. So now very, very quickly we're going to talk about, let me get this right out the way. Whoops. We're going to talk about crash bang, I'm sorry, these bits and bobs here. Let's have a look. Yeah, the lining is pretty too, Jackie. I know, it's really lovely, isn't it? I bought it a little while back and haven't used it. It was a full ½ metre of fabric, and it's one of those things where you're just waiting for the right project, isn't it, that you really love. So right, okay. Wow. I love my chair on wheels. What do you reckon? It's very smart. It's cream. Oh, you will have seen it when I was disappearing off here, there and everywhere. Good old Amazon. But it's great that I've got it on wheels because then I can sort of zoom about. Although I have got this cord attached to me. Anyway, right. So this is what I thought, and you can say what you think. But when I went to this workshop with my mum, we really loved making this. To be perfectly honest, this is the one we made first because that kind of gets you the feeling of what you're doing. It gets you your eye in, I suppose. And it's just as difficult to make a little flat coaster as it is that, honestly. So the first thing we did was this, and then we went on to that, and then we made the big bag. Now, I'm not suggesting I'm looking there because that's where it is over there. I'm not suggesting for a minute we make the big bag, because I'm thinking if I can get a good deal on this cord, because it is special cord, I'm going to show you in a sec, then I can post it out to you. So I need to price it up properly, cover the postage and packaging, and make sure that the parcel isn't too big. That's the main thing. Now, I bought a load. Do you know what? I really can't remember. I think there's 20 meters there. So what I need to do is work out how much we need to make the coaster and the bowl, try and get a good price off the man, and then think about how I'm going to get that out to you without costing a fortune. Okay, I'm pretty sure, and I will have another look, I'm pretty sure he charges postage and packaging. So because I was thinking, oh well, I'll just direct you to the site. So shall we work it out as we go along? If we work out what we're going to do first, and then you can decide if that's the best option for you. For all those lovely ladies that are in the States, and there's Joan in Canada, there's Diana, and there's another lady which I can never remember, might be Carol, who live in the States, and this Australia, Denmark, where else have we got? Portugal. There's one other and I can't remember. We've got Ireland as well, because obviously Ireland is different. I don't know what the postage and packaging would be. All right, so that's something else we need to have a little think about. But the first thing I need to do, I think from your response, is that you would like to do it. So, and it could be quite fun, wouldn't it? And I'd have to make sure I've got the camera right on the needle of the machine so you can see what I'm doing, rather than when holding up and showing. You need to watch me do it. So I'm going to put this on the overhead, because you need to sort of have a look at what this cord is like. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see quite clearly. Now I want you to have a quick look at the stitching on this, and I think you probably will be able to see the zigzag. I'm not sure, but hopefully you can. That obviously is deliberate, and on the coaster as well. Okay, so you can see the coaster and how that's been zigzagged together, right? And how this bowl, isn't that lovely? It feels beautiful. Now the reason why this is special, right, is because I managed to track down, because the lady that taught me, and I don't blame her, she wouldn't necessarily tell me. I mean, I must admit I didn't ask, but she wouldn't tell me, and I wouldn't blame her. She wouldn't tell me where she got her cord from, because this is rather special. It's a cord, but it has like a webbing around it. Now I'm going to try and come in and not lose focus. Okay, now can you see that webbing that's around it? And that's what makes this different, because when you stitch it with the zigzag, you can hardly see your zigzags because of all that it's like it's got an outer sheath to it. Look, so there's the cord there, and there's this sort of outer sheath which is like a cotton, like a cotton, and that's why when you actually make something, because of all that webbing that's around that cord, you can hardly see the zigzag. I mean, probably now it's really close up, you can see, but it is, like I say, a special cord, and I found it at an upholsterer's site, and it's the only one I found so far, so it is quite special. There we are, you can see it quite well now. So that's why I said to you, Joan, if you're watching now or you'll watch later, that I'll talk to you about it, because you said because you're in Canada, you said getting it locally. But if you can get something like that, it does make it's very, very soft. It's not hard. This is really super soft, and it just covers your stitching. So if your stitching is a bit ropey, excuse the pun, it covers it up because it's got that sheath going round it. Anyway, there we are. So I'll have a little play with that and think about that and research it and see what I come up with. And there we are. that's me done. That's me done. So I'm really happy that you stayed the distance, some of you, and I'm glad that you've got perhaps that craft program on record, because I'm going to go and see it now. But thank you ever so much for your time. Thank you very much for watching the tutorial, and hopefully you'll go away and make one. If you haven't got a metal popper, just use an ordinary press stud, or even a button and a loop maybe. But do have a go. Post some pictures on the old Facebook so I can see what you've done. I really enjoy seeing that. It's nice to see your own designs being made up. It gives me a bit of a kick, really. I feel good about it. So that's that really. So have a lovely evening, whatever you get up to from now on. It's a bit late and it's a bit dark, and I'm going to go and have a little glass of something and watch that lovely program. So take care, have a good rest of your evening.